Good morning, everybody. It is October 10th, and we are getting ready for a wonderful stream. We're going to have a good time. All right, let's see where we are here. Got a list this morning. They got surprisingly long. Oof. But the goal today is to get some writing done. At least this morning. I have a bunch of stuff this afternoon that I have to do, and we'll see if I get it all. If I manage to handle it all. All right, so we're going to be kicking off our first sprint in about 6 minutes. We'll be seeing how it goes. Man, my lighting keeps like shifting drastically every time I move my head. I don't know how to solve that. I probably need to not have quite so bright a space, but too much white. I don't know what it is. Oh well. But what I do know is that in 3 minutes we're going to kick off our first sprint. So I'm in the mulling mode. I'm trying to figure out what the plot for this next book. Plotting is always the thing that is the hardest for me, by far. And so we're going to work on getting our plot completely locked in. The goal today is to pick up probably about 10,000 words, maybe a little bit more. And as much as I want to rush ahead, as much as I want to rush into just writing, I have come over time to realize how incredibly important it is that I actually like do my plotting, handle everything. Morning, Miss Blogger. Yeah, today I'm going to be working on locking in the plot for book 3 of the Exlian Syndrome. I just finished book 2, and I'm continuing straight on into book 3. But all right, we're going to kick off our sprint in just a second. Before that, I've got to run and do something super quick. I'll be back within a minute or so, and we'll get going. All right, I'm back. And it is time to kick off our first sprint, so let's get going. Well, good morning, everybody who has joined. Sprint number 1 is done. So, today I'm starting a new book. And I'm doing my plotting. I did a little bit yesterday, not as much as I'd like. But I've gotten the first 15 or so chapters plotted out. But I need to also do a little bit of world building so that I'm not just doing it on the fly. Lady, well done. 2 pages is awesome, especially in 10 minutes. I know you joined that sprint a little bit late. Seriously, though, well done. All right, so we're going to be kicking off our next sprint pretty quickly here. My goal for this next sprint is just to get my world building all set so that I'm ready to go for the next one. And then it's going to be, let's try to write 7,500 words before 12. So that's the plan. Let's go ahead and get our next sprint going, though. 30 minutes on the clock. Thanks, lady. Let's get to it. All right, folks, that is sprint number 2. So I'm in a bit of a conundrum. Hey, Al, what's up? So I'm in a bit of a conundrum. When I start getting into... When I start getting into a new story, often I just need, like... I just need time to sort of mull through. And I'm realizing that I can't do it and I can't do this plotting while staring at a computer. So I've been doing some handwriting, you know, and it's really helping with my ideas. But I think I need to just take it somewhere else, which is hard because I want to keep streaming, but I don't think that being here in front of my computer is going to be helping me as I'm trying to think through this. I'm slowly starting to pick up ideas, but at the same time, I don't want to, you know, sometimes I feel like I use this as an excuse to like not work, and I don't want to do that. Good job, lady. 2.5 more pages done. Yeah, handwriting is super helpful for generating thoughts and, you know, starting to build out your or to generate ideas. All right, Alp wants to know about modern prose. Okay, you ready for a spicy take? Because this, my friends, is a spicy take. Here, let's do this. All right. So let's talk about modern prose. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and pause. I'll be right back in 1 second, and then I will talk about modern prose. All right, I'm back. Lady, that is such a good idea. Like, legitimately, that's a fantastic idea. To take some space away from everything else. Okay, so. Let's see. $112. All right. So, what do I mean when I say that modern writing or modern prose is trash? Okay. So, let me first give a couple of caveats, and then I'm going to jump into the spicy take. First caveat is I don't think that I don't hold my own writing as a standard of great writing. I think that's important. Sometimes when people talk about these things, it becomes really hard to be objective because you don't necessarily know whether I'm turning the music down slightly. You don't necessarily know whether the person who has the opinion thinks well of themselves or not. My prose is what I would call serviceable. It's fine. I don't have any ambition though to be the next, great American novelist. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I would say though is that serviceable prose is better, in my opinion, than what modern writing professors, what modern writing courses try to teach. Okay, so in order to fully express, and this is sort of the second caveat, in order to fully understand this opinion, I think some history is necessary. Writing has changed and evolved significantly over time, right? We don't write the same way that people did 100 years ago, 200 years ago. We don't even write the same way that people did 50 years ago, right? Writing used to be a much less common thing as well. But the democratization of life in general, and specifically the increase in absolute leisure time that humanity has been afforded through the rise of technology, has opened up writing to a lot of people. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that that's a fantastic thing. I think it's wonderful that we can express ourselves through writing. But it's caused some interesting evolutions in writing in general. So when you look at the landscape, or when you look at the history of writing, some things start to emerge. Okay, there's an increasing class divide in writing. It used to be that people who wrote were highly educated and typically had something, some sort of burning desire to communicate something. But those people also had tremendous life experience. And they had to have tremendous life experience because it was really, really hard to make a living as a writer. It was tremendously difficult. And the people who succeeded were people whose writing and whose voices were genuinely unique. They had some either through the circumstances of their life, or some other unique gifting. They and the sort of happenstance of being able to practice the craft for a long time. They developed voices that were genuinely unique. But then something happened. Then technology came along, and all of a sudden, writing became more accessible to everyone. Now, it's also important to understand that writers, people who made their living writing, whether they were writing plays, whether they were writing fiction, whether they were writing nonfiction, and the majority of writers throughout history wrote nonfiction. In fact, mostly religious texts. and then histories and science books and all of that kind of stuff, which all came out of religious tradition, right? Whether that was the Muslim tradition or in Arabic or the Christian tradition, in Latin and then eventually in English, or French or German or whatever languages. But the point is that and just to be clear, the same thing was happening in Asia as well, right? But eventually the sort of democratization of technology made it so that really anybody could write. But those people who wrote typically wrote for a certain class of people, because only people who had leisure time could afford to read or go to plays or participate in literary things. And then something fascinating happened. And then technology swept in, and all of a sudden, magazines could be printed cheaply. Little pamphlets or little booklets could be printed. Paper became more readily available as people understood or figured out how to create more paper cheaper, right? And so you ended up with pulp, right? Which is a specific kind of paper. It's really thin, really cheap, reused paper. And that led to this sort of revolution in writing. It led to this complete revolution in the way people engaged with this stuff, because all of a sudden, it wasn't just highbrow. It wasn't just educational. It wasn't just philosophical. All of a sudden, more people were reading because more people had time to read. And as more people started reading, as more people were educated enough to read, as greater swaths of society started doing this, the tone of what was being written shifted. And all of a sudden you started getting adventure stories. You started getting science fiction, right? But not the philosophical science fiction of H.G. Wells. Instead, you started getting the pulpy adventure fiction of Edgar Rice Burroughs. And genres have shifted and changed, and what people like has shifted and changed. But through all of that, there has been an increasing divide in what people say is good writing, or what people teach as good writing, and what people actually want to read. And the reason that this divide has grown is because the majority of people don't go and take classes on reading. They don't go and take classes on writing. They don't go and learn about what good writing is and what bad writing is. But there is a group of people who have made their living increasingly on teaching rather than doing. And as that group grows, they have to generate they have to create reasons for themselves to exist. Because this is the problem with the democratization of any technology. It breaks down the barriers and lets anybody do whatever. So if anybody can just sit down and write a book, which is absolutely where we are right now, then what's the point of having someone to teach you literature? What's the point? If anybody can just sit down and write a book, well, there isn't one. Unless good writing and bad writing exists. Unless there's something that can be taught that can improve people's writing. Now, I don't want to give the impression that there isn't such a thing as good writing and bad writing. There is. There's good writing, which is writing people want to read, and there is bad writing that people don't want to read. Within literature, there are two, and I'm getting to that right now. Within literature, there are two major trends. The first is the sort of terse writing that Hemingway popularized, right, through the modernist movement. And the second is literary, or that purpley, meandering prose. In truth, I think both of them suck. Neither of them is good. That really dense, really terse writing is good in circumstance, and meandering, purpley prose is good in circumstance, or maybe context is a better word. They both have their uses as techniques for communicating feelings. So I never finished it, but I started this book. I think it's on my shelf, actually. Oh, doesn't look like it's up there. Hold on. It was, I just can't read. It's called The Secret History. And one of the things that I noticed in it almost immediately was that the author did a really good job of using meandering prose to create a sense of confusion, but only in context. Otherwise, the writing was clear, but there were certain passages when the author wanted to communicate the confusion of and sort of the listlessness of the main character, that all of a sudden were long and complicated and meandering and purpley, and it really gave that sense that the writer was trying to communicate. On the other hand, sometimes you're reading a story and then all of a sudden it gets real punchy. Everything is tight and active. And that's good because it gives that sense of urgency, right? It heightens the tension. But an entire book of that, trash. An entire book of purpley prose, trash. Good writers, in my opinion, are more often found in genre fiction nowadays. This is absolutely an opinion, and most like literature professors and people who study writing would probably absolutely disagree with me. And if I were to, go to a conference and spout this opinion, I'd probably be crucified, honestly. But that's okay. In my opinion, though, the best writers are people like Terry Pratchett, who can use literary devices as they're meant to be used, as opposed to just saying, well, this style is good writing, and so everything has to fit into this style. The thing about the best writers throughout history is that they broke all of the rules and conventions of their time. And people enjoyed their writing because it was distinct and different, and they had unique voice. And people said, that's what I want. And then that became popular. But more often than not, what was the exception becomes the rule. And when that happens, it doesn't produce great writing. Because the reality is that, I'm not Hemingway. I can't write the way he writes and communicate the same feelings and the same themes, because I'm not him and I don't have his thoughts. I don't have his life experiences, right? Now, does that mean that you should try to break convention? Always. No, absolutely not. The writers who do that, who write that way, typically find their careers very short-lived. Instead, I think it's much better to pursue clarity in a style that you enjoy. And if you can do that, I think that you can develop a good voice. Yeah, so that's my rant. I think that often when we talk to an editor, one of the real challenges with an editor is that they, especially if they're a newer editor or if they're not quite as good, they will try to impose the rules about what good writing is, and it's a total waste of time. You're much better off just practicing and practicing and practicing, and and reading a lot to try to refine a voice that is yours. Yeah, so that's my rant on modern writing. I think too many modern writers. So let me cap this off actually. So the actual problem is that the people who are at the top of the publishing industry are not writers. And so they don't, and a lot of them aren't readers in the same way that somebody is in the general public is a reader. And so you have editors, you have agents, you have suits who have all been taught that there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And I think that what the indie publishing revolution is showing is that that's entirely false. Or rather, that there is a right way and there is a wrong way. But the right way is to write something that people want to read. The wrong way is to write something according to the standards of what good writing is. So, anyway, that's my rant. Yeah. All right. So I need to decide. I need to decide what I'm going to do here. And I think what I'm going to do, I apologize to anybody who was planning on sprinting with me, but I think I'm going to jump off and I'm going to go take a walk. And I'm going to keep working on my plot, and I'm going to keep working on my world building and try to really nail this down before I start writing. I need to get my head around this story in a way that's going to help me actually it's going to help me actually get through it. So, all right. So that's what I'm going to do. I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for listening to me rant. And I will be back tomorrow, hopefully for a full session. I think maybe between books, I just need to take a day off stream to do my walking. Because that's the way I best process everything. Or just plan a short stream, Anyway, hope you're all having a good one, and hope that the rest of the day goes really well. Hope you can get some work done. I will be probably starting my writing this evening to see if I can get in. But thanks, everybody.